Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, welcome to the 12th dimension, where I'm joined by the wonderful Alfred Santariga. I have pronounced it right, haven't I?
You got it perfect, absolutely.
Practicing it all week.
Nobody gets
Sorry,
it right.
well, I was having a bit of a chat offline and didn't realise the time, so my fault. Hold my hands up. I do apologise. So, Alfred, do you want to give us a bit of a bio about yourself? Let people know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Al Santariga. I'm the founder of the Bronxville Paranormal Society. That's the the parent group of the New York State Dogman Project, the New York State Sasquatch Organization, and the New York State UFO Project. They're all under that umbrella of the BPS team. And my mom was a psychic. My brother was a paranormal researcher. He was one of the first parapsychologists in the United States. He worked with Hans Holzer's right-hand man, and they used Hans Holzer's psychic Ethel all the time. And, I've had paranormal experiences my whole life. What I thought was normal, and didn't realize that none of the other kids in the neighborhood were having it done, so it turned out to be abnormal or paranormal.
Yeah. Cool. Right, so tonight we're going to be talking about cryptids, aren't we? We're going to start off talking about cryptids.
Absolutely.
So what got you into the cryptid side of the paranormal world?
Well, when I was a kid, I would say maybe 10 years old, I remember going to the movie and seeing the Patty video before the movie started. I think we went to see James Bond or something, and it was like a 5-minute film before James Bond came on. And I remember all my cousins thinking that it was a joke, and I was like, nope, that movie. And I don't claim to be psychic by any stretch of the imagination, but I do get gut feelings or vibes. And I said, nope, that video is real, and I'm telling you, that is absolutely real. And I get that feeling every now and then with certain things. When I see something, I just know it's not a hoax, or sometimes I know it is a hoax. And my brother, being a few years older than me, had a million books in the house, everything under the sun, from UFOs to Bigfoot to Loch Ness Monster to ghost hunting. And I read them all. Every time he was done with them, I read them. And I always believed that Bigfoot was real. And when I was 12 years old, down in South Florida, I had my first Bigfoot experience.
Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. My parents would send me to my sister's house every summer in South Florida, a little town called Davie. It was on the outskirts of the Everglades. And that was like my summer camp. And my cousin Anthony always came with me. He was like almost like my older brother at the time. And we would go down there, and my brother-in-law had a restaurant, but he would always have a bunch of stuff for us to do every day, like kind of work around the house, and slave labor, we'll call it, And we would do the work until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon when it got too hot or whatever, and then we'd go and swimming in the pool, or he had dirt bikes for us. We'd go to ride dirt bikes in the woods. So it was a great thing, and we'd go back every year. So we knew all the kids in the neighborhood. We had a lot of friends there, and so one summer, I think it was 1974, right after the 4th of July. That particular summer, there was a drought in South Florida. There were fires in the Everglades, and a lot of creatures were being brought inland. And we were seeing a lot of reports of the skunk ape on TV. We'd hear it on the radio news in the car. We'd hear it. We'd see it in a newspaper, and we laughed because we said, "What a stupid name, a skunk ape," and we didn't believe it was true. And then one night, my cousin and I were up late watching Don Kirshner's rock concert back in the day. And concert ended like at 2 o'clock. It was over. And we went to sleep. We were going to sleep, and something horrible walked past our house. Now, the development we were living in at the time was a giant 2-mile square. Okay. Right. And there was a lot of homes there was a lot of empty lots. Not all the homes have been built yet.
Right. Okay. And
there was there was a horse rancher in the beginning of the development, and it was a cattle rancher towards the back where we were. And we knew the kid whose father owned the horses, and we would shovel shit in the stalls to make money to get beer to go in the woods that night and party, And but we would also take tours out during the day if he didn't have anybody to take any tours out. The horses knew where they were going. You know what I mean? Yeah. He just wanted somebody in the front and somebody in the back, keep everybody in between us. So we would take tours out. So we did a lot of work for his father and stuff like that. The cattle rancher was not a fan of ours because we used to race our dirt bikes so fast around the development that whenever we came around his turn, we would go up on his grass and tear up his lawn. Okay. And he was always banging on my brother-in-law's door. You gotta fix my lawn. You gotta fix my lawn. It's your kids that are doing this. So he wasn't a big fan of ours. But we're in there. And so that first night we get this smell. Next morning we're sitting around at breakfast, and we asked my brother-in-law, we said, "Hey, he had 2 large German shepherds that were canine trained, and we had a 6-foot fence went around the side of the houses and the back of the property, but the front of the property was wide open. It had a circular driveway with a fountain in the middle." And we told him, someone by the house last night, the dogs went absolutely nuts. I had to put them in the garage, and it smelled to high heaven. So my brother-in-law said, "Oh, it's probably the skunk ape." So me and my cousin started laughing. Skunk ape, there's a skunk ape, And so I told my sister, I said, "The hell's the skunk ape?" And she says, "Oh, it's the Florida version of Bigfoot. That's what it is." And I was like, okay. So we hung out with our friends that night, and we were talking to them, and they were like, "Yeah, every now and then, the skunk ape comes out of the swamp, and we have sightings of them, in town and whatever." And it was like very nonchalant to them, like it wasn't a big deal, They lived with it their whole lives. So Another night we're finished hanging out, very late night, a couple of nights later. And my sister had a sunroom, a sunken sunroom in the front of the house, giant picture window, like 4x8. And she had a queen size couch that pulled out to a bed. So my cousin Anthony and I were sleeping on that. We go to sleep again, and we're sitting in there, and the sensor lights go on in the front of the driveway. And the dogs start growling, and their hair is up, and they're not happy. And we see this giant shadow go across the wall in front of us, and just froze us. We didn't know what it was, but the dogs went ballistic. And I jumped up and I grabbed the dogs and I put them in the garage. And I crawled back across the living room floor and to peek out of the shade. My sister had a shade that pulled down. And peek out of the shade to see what was out there. And my cousin Anthony was just frozen laying there. And when I peeked out, I seen this thing to me that looked like a monster. Okay. It was 9 feet tall. It had reddish tint to its hair. It had canines in it. I thought it had seen me. And when I thought it seen me, it did like this incredible Hulk scream, which just petrified. I mean, it went right through you. And at that point, I closed this thing and I watched it. Hindsight being 2020, it had probably seen its reflection in the glass and thought it was another skunk ape and was doing like a territorial kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I seen it go to the right side of the house. I dragged my cousin Anthony out of the bed. I said, come on. We'll go in the bathroom between the two kids' rooms and we'll check it out. And we're sitting in the bathroom with the lights off. My sister had a black screen, a tinted window. So we figured there's no way this creature could see us. And as it walked around the side of the house, the sensor lights went on so we could see it clear as day. Its eyes were red. And it was looking at us the whole time it was walking by us. And it stopped in the middle of the empty lot because it was like a wild watermelon patch. And it grabbed the wild watermelon, took a giant bite out of it, and then just dropped it and was walking towards the back of the property. So we ran out of the bathroom. We went into my sister had a screened-in patio. We went in the screen and we were waiting for it to pass the back of the house because we knew the sensor lights on the back would go off. And the reason I say it was 9 feet tall is because my sister's fence was 6 foot high to keep the dogs in.
Yeah.
And this thing was head and shoulders above that fence. Head and shoulders. And it walked past us. And again, the whole time it walked past us, it was looking back at us. Like it could see us, and we couldn't understand how it could see us because we're pitch black, you know? Yeah. And there was a man-made lake behind our house that we used to go swimming in because the water was cooler than the water in the pool, okay?
Yeah.
And it squatted down, and it scooped up the water, and it started drinking the water out of the man-made lake the whole time, still looking at us. And then it walked off into the woods, into the swamp, where we used to go horseback riding and where we used to ride our dirt bikes and have our bonfires. And then it just started screaming to high heaven once it got in there. So the next day, you know, we tell my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law what happened. Oh my God, you're not going to believe it. And they're like, oh, you guys are kidding me. And I said, no, come on. And we brought my brother-in-law out along the side of the fence where the empty lot was. Yeah. And there was like a 16, 17-inch footprint there.
Jesus.
You know? And it was like 17 inches long and 8 inches wide. And my brother-in-law said, I'm coming home from the restaurant at lunchtime. I'm buying plaster Paris plaster, and we're going to cast these footprints because he wanted to put them up on the bar, his bar. He had a nice bar. Yeah. He wanted, a conversation piece. So we were waiting for my brother-in-law to come home at lunchtime because he owned a pizzeria, Italian restaurant. He'd always bring food home for us, pizza or something. But he never came home. And by the time he got home at the end of the night, which is like 12 o'clock at night, the horse tours had gone by. and they always rode right by our fence. So they just destroyed all the tracks. So by the time he got back like at 12. I was like, oh, forget it. The horses went by, they destroyed the tracks, you know?
Yeah.
So we couldn't track them. So that was like the very first time we laid eyes on it. And to me, it looked like King Kong, you know. It was huge. It had to be 4 feet wide and 3 feet thick. You know what I mean? And 9 feet tall. It was just a monster. It was really just, I mean, that was the only way I could describe it, was a monster.
So do you think when you said it was looking at you and you thought it couldn't see you because it was tinted glass, do you think it was able to see you and know that you was there?
I think it's seen our body heat. Yeah, I think it's seen us. I think it's seen us. Either it had night vision and it's seen us via night vision, or it had like a thermal kind of vision and it's seen our body, our outlines. Because, like I said, it never took its eyes off of us until it started to walk off into the swamp.
Yeah,
you know. And I don't know if it was worried about us so much as it may have been concerned about the dogs on the property, because I'm sure he smelt the dog in the yard, you know, and stuff like that. So not that it couldn't have killed the dogs, it could snap the dogs' necks, but I mean, still, you know, 225-pound German Shepherds at once is a lot to deal with, you know. But
yeah, for some at that size, it's nothing really, is it?
Yeah, I mean, you got to grab both of them in each hand and knock their heads together like the Three Stooges, you know. But I mean, I mean, that's how big it was. I don't think it was, like I said, I don't think it was good. Or it may have been concerned with us because maybe, you know, that back then in South Florida, 74, it was still cowboy country. Everybody's truck had a shotgun and a 30-30 and a 30-06 on the window, you know what I mean? Because all of these guys hunted, so they had whatever they were going out for, they had the gun in the window. I mean, every pickup truck in that town had a guns in the window, and no one shot themselves or killed anybody, you know. And like I said, the town was so small that the biggest thing that happened there was the rodeo on the 4th of July. You know, that was like the big deal, the rodeo on the 4th of July. And so then a couple of weeks went by, and we were hanging out, and my brother-in-law had come home, and it was late one night, and we hadn't heard anything. And my brother-in-law had come home, and he had brought some pizzas home for us, you know. And we got the ones that got burnt, that the cooks overcooked, you know what I mean? We always got
the ones that
you couldn't sell them, so I'd bring them home and we'd eat them, you know. But we were kids, you know, 1 o'clock in the morning, a fresh pizza is a good deal. So
you don't care whether it's burnt.
No, absolutely not. I prefer it a little burnt, to be honest with you. But we were sitting in the patio one night. It was me, my cousin Anthony, my brother-in-law, and my sister. We were all eating a slice of pizza, talking. And my brother said, well, you know, how's it been around here tonight? We said, oh man, it's been quiet. You know, it's been quiet. No noise, no screaming in the woods, no nothing. And no sooner did we say that, we heard what sound like a 30-30 going off across the way. Bang, 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 bang. So we all run to the front of the house. And like I said, one thing about Florida, everything is flat. And if there's no homes in your line of sight, you could see for miles. And we could see the muzzle flash of the rifle going off at the horse ranchers. So my brother-in-law said, jump on your bikes, go down there and see what's going on. So we jumped on our motorcycles and we raced across the empty lots. We get down there and we see our friend and we're like, what's going on? And we knew, like I said, we had a lot of friends in the neighborhood. There was even a few people there that had moved there from New York, you know? So we had friends from New York that lived there as well, where everybody's like talking and what's going on. And he said his father had just bought a horse from like Wyoming or someplace like that. That was too wild to put in the stalls. If he tried to stall it, it would kick, and it made all the other horses nuts. So he would leave it in the corral. And he had a Native American Seminole Indian come in every day to work the horse to try to break it, you know, so he could put it in. And So this horse was in the corral, and apparently this 9-foot skunk ape snuck up on it and grabbed it by its hind quarters. Okay.
Oh.
And when it did that, the horse must have kicked out. And when the horse kicked it, it must have let go. And the horse jumped the corral. And, it was making a lot of noise. There was a lot of ruckus going on. So the farmer came, the horse rancher came out with his rifle. And because he thought maybe it was something like a cougar trying to get his horse,
Yeah.
So he came out blasting, and the skunk ape had run off into the swamp. The horse had run off into the pasture. Once it got into the pasture, I guess the skunk ape couldn't catch it. So he called the sheriff. The sheriff came, and he's like, "What do you got to do something. We're on the outskirts of the Everglades here. We're right on the edge, and this creature is coming through every single night. We hear it screaming in the woods, and I'm afraid to send tours out there. I don't know if someone's going to get hurt." And so the sheriff said, "All right. We'll pick up the patrol in the neighborhood, and we'll see what we could find." So he's okay. The next morning, the Native American came to get the horse out of the pasture. We happened to be hanging out with our friend when they brought the horse in. And when they brought the horse in, the horse had handprints on its hind quarters. Not claw marks, but handprints. Like if I was to grab you by your wrist and squeeze as hard as I could, that's what was on and everybody was just baffled. They called the sheriff. The sheriff came out again and was like, took photographs and said, "This is, never seen anything like this before." Yeah. And so he said, "Okay, we're going to pick up the patrol." So a few nights go by, again, you may get some screaming off in the, we stopped hanging out in the swamp at night, having our bonfires, you know what I mean? So kind of could have put a kibosh on our partying and everything. But we were hanging out one night, and my brother-in-law, now let me just explain this. The guy who owned the cattle rancher, who owned the cattle ranch, he had a white Brahma bull. These are bulls with the humps in their neck. This bull was the size of a minivan. If he weighed 2,000 pounds, he weighed an ounce, okay? And I know for a fact how big this bull was, because I used to jog that 2-mile loop every day. Because I was into martial arts, and my cousin was into weights. He's working out in the garage with the weights, and I'm jogging. And one day there was a house that had this Saint Bernard, and this dog hated me. He was like Cujo, hated me. And one day I'm running past this house, and the dog is going nuts. And the woman who lived there is coming up the block, and she hit the remote control on the gate so she could pull in. And not thinking that, someone's running by and the dog is going nuts. And this dog came flying out of the gate and started chasing me. So I'm running for my life. I get to the cattle rancher. Now the cattle rancher, his fence was only like 4 feet high, So I dive over the cattle rancher's fence, and I'm on the other side of the fence. And the St. Bernard is up against the fence going absolutely nuts. And the lady's down the street calling it back. And this Brahma bull seen me in the pasture and seen the dog and started to come over towards us,
Right.
And I started working my way out the front gate behind the cows. I was using the cows as protection, you know? And the dog wasn't following me because the woman was calling it, and it was kind of looking at her and kind of looking at the bull, and the bull was kind of like sizing up the dog because he could have ran through that fence if he really wanted to, you know? Eventually the dog went back to his house. I snuck out the front gate. So I knew how big that bull was up close and personal. You know what I mean? And so again, a couple of weeks go by, and my brother-in-law says, "Listen, we're having friends fly in from New York. We're going to take them out to Fort Lauderdale or whatever, Miami, whatever they were going. You guys got to watch the kids." Okay, no problem. We'll watch the kids. So we watched the kids, and My brother-in-law and my sister took their friends out for a night of dancing and dinner and all of that stuff. They get home around 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And they pull into the driveway. The lights go on. The dogs go crazy. We look out the window. We see the car. We open up the door. The dogs run out. And we're all talking. And my sister's like, any action tonight? Like, nope, really quiet. No problem. My brother-in-law's like, oh, it's been quiet lately. No sooner did he say that, we hear the most horrific scream that sent chills down our backs. Scared the living hell out of my sister. She grabbed both of the dogs and she ran into the house. That's how scared she was. We were just like, me, my cousin, and my brother-in-law were trying to figure out what the hell it was, because it was blood curdling. Never heard anything like that. And then we're looking up towards the cattle ranchers, because that's where it came from, and we seen two blasts, boom, boom, like a double barrel shotgun go off. So my brother-in-law says, jump in the car. Well, we'll go check it out, So my cousin Anthony jumps in the front seat. I jump in the back. I'm hanging out of the sunroof, and we're driving down the end of the block. And just as we get to the end of the block, the deputy sheriff is passing us, going real slow. Yeah. So we're stuck behind the deputy sheriff going like 2 miles an hour. And you can see another car at the other end of the development, like a mile away, turning in. So we're assuming that's probably the sheriff, and they're going to crisscross each other, right?
Yeah.
He's got his spotlight. He's looking to his left, because that's where the swamp is on this particular part of the road. Yeah. We're all looking to the left, following the deputy sheriff, when the creature comes running out of the darkness on the right. The police car hits it. Okay. The police car stopped. It looked like, the way this car hit this creature, it looked like this car hit a tree. Okay. It just stopped dead.
Yeah.
The creature goes down, takes down a bus sign for like the kids' school buses, which are supposed to last. They're supposed to be like unbendable up to like 300-mile-an-hour winds for the hurricanes. Well, this creature flattened this sign, just bent it right in half. Creature gets back up. And as the creature is getting back up, we're all like looking straight ahead. My brother-in-law hits it with the high beams so we could get a really good look at it, Yeah. And I'm hanging out of the moonroof, so I feel like I'm right there, Yeah. And the creature hobbles over to the police car, looks down at the deputy sheriff, and at that time, they had their shotguns between the two officers in the front, but there was only one officer in the car. Yeah. So the shotgun was right there. It wasn't in the trunk of the car like they carry it now. And we could see the deputy sheriff like silhouette with his hands on the steering wheel, and he's just looking straight. And the creature walks up to the car, and it's like time stands still, right? And both of its fists like hammer punches the front of the car. Yeah. And screams like, and the back of the car comes off the ground, and we're like, whoa, and it limps off into the swamp. At this point, the sheriff is coming our way, and he's all of a sudden he sees the creature. He puts his lights on. He comes racing our way. He gets there. He sees the police car is totaled, like at a telephone pole, and he's taking the deputy's report. He's like, why didn't you shoot it with the shotgun? And the deputy said the shotgun wasn't big enough. Just wasn't big enough, Yeah. And so that he's taking his report, and then he's taking our report, because we're the witnesses of, I guess, for the insurance for the car or whatever.
Oh yeah.
When the cattle rancher comes racing up to us in his pickup truck, and he's screaming, Sheriff, you got to come back to my ranch. You got to see what this damn creature did to my prize bull. And I'm thinking, what could this thing have done to this bull? This bull was the size of a minivan, right? Yeah. So the sheriff says, okay. And he leaves, and we go around the deputy. We follow the sheriff. We get back to the cattle rancher's property, and the sheriff is panning the pasture with his spotlight. And there's the bull in the middle of the pasture with no head, just bleeding out.
Jesus.
And so the sheriff is like, where the hell is the bull's head? and he's panning, and 100 yards away in a different direction, the bull had just ripped the head off. The creature ripped the head off this bull and just threw it away. Like, and he was like, "You got to do something about this. You know how much that bull cost me?" And it's just absolutely going nuts, you know. And the sheriff is like, "Yeah, we're going to take care of this creature tonight. We're going to take," and calls in the state police, the county police, and they come in. And they come in with helicopters, and they come in with dogs, and they come in with horses, and they searched the swamp high and low all night long, and they found nothing. Now, the next morning, we thought for sure the news would be there because we're seeing it on the news every day, all summer long, right? So we're like, oh my God, we're going to be interviewed. We're going to be in a newspaper. We're going to be on TV. Yeah. You know, we're all psyched up. You're thinking that we're the only eyewitnesses. We've seen everything. No one came around. It was never reported. And I don't know how they wrote it off. You know what I mean? But it was never reported as a skunk ape incident. I don't know how they, what the insurance company, if the county or the town paid for the bull, you know what I mean? Because the insurance company is not going to, there's not a bear big enough in Florida to rip that bull's head off, And so it was just crazy, absolutely crazy. And I remember telling my cousin, man, we didn't come to, we live in the city. We got to deal with muggers and thugs and dark alleyways. And we're fighting our way home every night through the neighborhoods. And I said, we got to come to Florida to get killed by some monster, It scared me for, I would say, 2 years. 2 years, I was afraid to go to sleep at night because my room where I lived back in the city, even though we were in the city, we were on the first floor, and I had a big picture window in my room because it used to be, my father was a carpenter, and my room used to be a front porch, and my father closed it off to make another bedroom. And when he closed it off, the only window he had in his shop was a big picture window with two little windows. So he put that up. So I had this big picture window. So my room was the size of a prison cell. You know what I mean? It was like 5-6 feet wide and 10 feet long, and that was it, And I used to have these bad visions of this creature reaching through that glass window and just yanking me and pulling me out of my bed for like 2 years straight. It was tough to get over, you know what I mean? Eventually I got over it, but for 2 years. And then we got back from Florida, and my sister had called me. Like the very next day we got back from Florida, my sister had called me. Her friend, this guy, Ralph, he had a horse pasture on the other side of the canal, in a different development. And he had the creature break into his barn and take one of its ponies. And he snapped the pony's neck, and he was dragging it off. And Ralph heard all the noise. Ralph went out shooting. Of course, he went out shooting, and the creature dropped the pony and ran off. But they gathered up a posse from all the local ranches, and everybody went on horses with all kinds of guns. And they tracked the creature because the creature must have stepped on a nail or something when he broke the barn, and he left the blood trail. And they tracked the blood trail to the swamp. If they would have found the creature that night, they would have killed it. Those guys were all cowboys, and they would have killed it. But once it gets into that swamp, it got away. And a friend of mine, one of the local kids, who was a real rebel, you know what I mean? He was a real redneck kind of kid, all the local kids used to swim in the canal. They said, "Oh, come on, we're gonna go swimming in the canal." And I was like, "Are you out of your mind? There's water moccasins in there, there's alligators in there. I'm not going swimming in the canal. I got a pool and I got a man-made lake. Why would I go in the canal?" And they're like, no, the alligators don't come in the turnaround. They called it the turnaround. The way the water would come in, and then it would get to the end, and it would turn around and go back out. And they swore up and down that the alligators never came in the turnaround. And these kids would go swimming in it every day. Yeah. And meanwhile, my cousin Anthony and I, we would fish in there, and there was tons of fish and turtles and frogs. And why wouldn't the alligators come in here? There's plenty of food for them, you know?
Yeah.
And we were fishing one day. We're fishing in a turnaround, and the alligator is sleeping, sunning itself on the top of the water, and he comes in with the tide.
Yeah.
And when this creature seen where it was, its eyes got big, like, oh no, I'm not so. And it literally, and I hand to God, it literally ran on the top of the water to get out of the turnaround.
Wow.
And my cousin Anthony looked at me, and I looked at him and was like, did you just see that? I go, yeah, I just seen that. And we couldn't believe it. So my friend said he believed that the creatures had caverns, in the underground caverns in the swamps where they would swim into, and they would come up underground in like a pool or some kind of freshwater pool. Yeah. And they were living underground. And I said, oh, you're crazy, you know? And he's like, I'm going to look for it. You want to look for me? I go, no, I'm not looking for it. Because he's swimming in between all the cattails and everything. And he's looking for it. And he's diving down. He's coming up. Finally, he comes up and he says, I found an opening. I'm going to go in. And I'm like, dude, don't go in there. It's probably an alligator den. You're probably going to get eaten. Don't go in there. And he's like, no, I'm telling you, and he swore up and down. He said he found the lair. He says, if I'm not back in 20 minutes, jump on the motorcycle, go get my brothers. Show them where I am. I said, okay. So I'm watching, waiting. Apparently this kid swam in, and when he came out of the freshwater pool underground, he said there were like caverns all around in a circle, like circular. It looked like little caves. Yeah. He said, and the smell was so bad that it burnt his eyes. He couldn't breathe, and he couldn't see. And he came back out, and and when he came out of the water, this kid was bouncing off the wall 100 miles an hour. And he's like, Al, you got to come with me. And he goes, I got to have somebody to validate what I see. And I was like, are you out of your mind? I said, first of all, if it is the skunk ape's lair, and I believe this kid 100%, there's no doubt in my mind, he wasn't bullshitting me. I said, what? I said, just think about it. If your father woke up in the middle of the night and found a stranger in his house, what would your father do? Your father would shoot that guy right there in the spot. Yeah. So what do you think these creatures going to do if your head pops up out of that water and it sees you? Wow, it's gonna pop your head off like a solder top. Like you know what I mean? But he swore up and down. He said, okay. He said, just do me a favor. Keep it to yourselves. Don't tell anybody, because if the police ever found out, they demolition it. You know what I mean? They'd kill all these creatures, and these creatures have a right to live just like we do. And yada yada yada. Yeah. And I was like, listen, I'm not telling nobody. Don't worry about it. And I didn't tell anybody for like 40 years until my brother wrote his book. And then when my brother wrote his book, I told him about this experience. And so. On our way back from Florida to New York, I told my cousin Anthony, I said, man, I can't wait to get back and tell my brother. My brother's going to lose his mind. He goes, oh, you can't tell your brother. I said, why can't I tell my brother? He said, because if you tell your brother's going to tell everybody in the family, and everybody's going to break our chops. They're going to pick on us the way they pick on your brother. They always picked on my brother. The way my family shows love is by breaking your balls, okay? So they always picked on my brother because they said, oh, you got a degree in parapsychology. How much money you're going to make with that, and yada, yada. But my brother had other degrees in computer science and stuff. But so anyway, I was like, no, I got to tell my brother. He's like, if you tell your brother, I'm going to kick your ass. And my cousin Anthony was a big dude. He worked out every day. He had a back that was this wide, And I was like, I didn't feel like fighting with him because we fought all the time. You know what I mean? And I just didn't feel like fighting with him. So I was like, fine, I won't tell anybody. But of course, I told my two closest friends, I said, but whatever you do, don't mention it around Anthony, otherwise he'll kick all of our asses, And so I never told anybody. Then when I told my brother, he couldn't validate it with Anthony or my brother-in-law because they had both passed. But he called my sister, and my sister's like, "Oh, absolutely, I remember that summer." She's like, "Yeah, that." She goes, "I forgot all about it. It's been so long, it's 40 years. She goes, "But I remember that summer in that house." And actually, a woman, her name was Ree, a woman from the BFRO, seen this report in the Florida Skunk Ape Museum, and she contacted me and she says, "Could I put this report on the BFRO?" And I said, "Absolutely." And she goes, "I just want you to know, I was the same age as you, and I lived in the next town over. And my father had a business in Davie, and my uncle was a cop in the next town to south of us, which was New City. Not New City, was it New City? Something like that, New City or whatever. And Cooper City was called Cooper City." And she goes, "My father would come home every night and talk about the reports of the skunk ape in Davie and what was going on in Davie." She goes, "So I would," and then she goes, "My uncle retired from the police department. He gave me his unofficial skunk ape report book." You know what I mean? Because they had two reports, two books, one the official, one the unofficial. And she was going to put a book together with all of her uncles, because her uncles would get a lot of people would call the police saying that there's a 7-foot black man peeking in my window, peeping Tom, you got to come over here.
Yeah.
And they would go there, and when they got around the corner, they would hit it with the flashlight. It would be a skunk ape, and the skunk ape would run off, jump into the canal, and swim away. So they couldn't put that in the report. They would just say, "Yeah, it was a black guy that, when we got there, he ran away, So they had two reports, though. But this woman put together such an amazing, if you go to the BFRO and you look up South Florida skunk ape report, I forgot what the number was, but if you go there, she's got aerial photographs of the property. It was called Sunshine Acres. Okay. Yeah. Of course, now it's all developed. The cattle ranch is gone, the horse ranch is gone, and the woods are gone. But she's got it all mapped out. Like down here was the horse rancher, up here was the cattle rancher, and yet our house was here. And she's got this whole thing. And then at the bottom of that, she put in all the newspaper articles from that summer of all the skunk ape reports. So there's like 30 articles underneath it. She did such an amazing job that I was blown away by it.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm guessing there's a lot of sightings in the area's skunk ape.
Well, yeah, because back then this development was right on the edge of the Everglades. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you went into the swamps and you went a mile in, and you were in the beginning of the Everglades, and the Everglades are humongous, thousands of acres. Yeah. Wow. So I mean, with the drought that summer and the fires in the Everglades pushing all the animals in, they were getting a lot of reports of cougars as well. Stuff that you normally wouldn't see where people live. You know what I mean? They were getting a lot of police reports of. So it wasn't just the skunk ape that would come in. It probably came in to get away from the fire as well, but it was probably following the food sources too. If the deer are coming in, it's coming in after them as well. So crazy stuff.
Yeah, just going back to the turnaround thing with the alligators. So I'm guessing the alligators knew what was going on, and that's why they wouldn't go in there.
I would imagine that the creature let off some kind of oily secretion, that probably just stayed in that area, and the alligators could smell it or taste it or whatever, you know what I mean? And wouldn't go. Yeah, now the alligators knew. I mean, hindsight being 2020, when I think back of it, I never seen an alligator in the turnaround, and I never even seen a water moccasin in the turnaround. You know what I mean? Not even a snake in the turnaround. But as far as like frogs and fish and turtles, there was
just your average amphibians and
so
no other predators would go in that area.
Not that we knew of. You know, we had one time my sister's dogs got out one time and they treat a cougar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was a big deal to see a cougar, you know, in the neighborhood, you know. And
Yeah.
my brother-in-law had to pull the dogs back in because otherwise, you know, because at some point the cougar would have attacked and then he would have had to shoot the cougar. And you couldn't kill the cougars in Florida or the alligators because they were both on the endangered species list, you know, so you really couldn't, unless you were, you know, being mauled by one, you really couldn't shoot it. So my brother-in-law, when he went to get the dogs, he went with his gun and he just dragged the dogs back onto the props so the cougar could get back into the Everglades and get away. But there was all kinds of sightings of stuff, you know, that year. Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow. Oh, I'm just fascinated with everything going on. It's like, as you're telling it, it feels, I know I've never been, but I can just imagine everything that's going on at the same time.
That means I'm telling it the right way. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You
if you're living it through my eyes, you know, me telling it, then I'm doing a good job telling it. Then.
Oh,
absolutely,
definitely.
Yeah.
Got a couple of questions, but we've got a hello for you from Chris Evers out of
hey Chris, how you doing?
So he says, "Hi all, please pass my regards on to Al and let him know I'm interviewing his compatriot Brian Bowden this evening."
I knew he was interviewing Brian, and Brian is up at the Ocala, Florida Bigfoot conference.
Right, okay.
And Brian was telling me he's probably going to have to do the interview either in the car or in the hotel room, one or the other.
Yeah.
I know he was interviewing Brian.
Yeah. No, cool. Yeah. So he just wanted to say hello and send his regards on to him.
It's always good to say hi to Chris. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Chris was on a couple of weeks ago, but
was he?
It was a pre-recorded. I went to the OLM conference last year in Hull. And then I kept meaning to speak with Chris, but he's actually coming back on doing a live session like tonight.
Oh, awesome.
In what we now we're in April, I think June, middle of June. So only about 6-8 weeks away.
Awesome.
So so we've got Chris coming back on.
Yeah, Chris is a great one. He's a great researcher. Absolutely. Yeah.
He's a top guy.
Yeah, top guy. You know, right up there with what's his name that you mentioned earlier in the show, Paul St. Clair and those guys, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Right. It is June. Cause the thing he's just put, yes, Andy, it's June. Because I'm asking people to come on as a guest. I can, unless I look at the calendar or the messages, I've not got a clue what date I've sent to what person. So I have to write it down straight away.
Otherwise, me too. I got my calendars. I got all kinds of stuff on my calendars. You know what I mean? So I know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, who I'm doing it with. And, you know, like I said, this year has been like a blur. I try to only do like 12 interviews a year. But for some reason, everybody and their mother wanted to interview me this year, and I did. I feel like I did 100 interviews this year. I truly do. I don't know how many exactly there were, but I know I've done a ton up to now, and I still have a ton on the calendar to go. You know. So.
Well, I'm full now until the middle of September. That's every Friday. I've got a couple of Fridays off where I'm going away, or I've got something going on. But every single Friday and a few Wednesdays. But it's got to the point now where I'm having to book days off work.
Oh, geez.
Just to do, because there's one in May. There's a Wednesday in May where I'm doing either 3 or 4 podcasts. Only one of them is for this channel. The others, it's people interviewing me. So there's one from California. There's 2 in America and 1 in the UK.
Nice.
Same again, without looking, I've not got a clue.
Well, I'll hook you up
So-
with a few people I know in the UK too. I don't know if you like I was mentioning Tommy. I don't know if you know who David Cook is.
David Cook. David
David's
Cook.
David's got a show. It comes out of Las Vegas, but he's a paranormal researcher, a psychic, amazing. I'll hook you up with those guys, and then you'll have more interviews. You can interview them, and they can interview you. Absolutely,
Definitely.
Especially since you guys are all
awesome.
from the UK, you're all on the same time schedule. I mean, whenever I do something, I gotta know what time schedule I'm supposed to be on.
You know what? I've had to learn pretty much the time zones around the world.
Yeah, you have to.
This. I probably know the time zones over in America better than I do back here. We've only got one. But it's like, right, 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. So I just use the three. I use Pacific, Eastern, and Central.
Yeah, and there's Mountain too. Yeah.
Yeah, that just throws me out. I go the wrong way with that.
You just go well. If you're going west, it's always add an hour, so you know what I mean. So, but I mean, like I whenever there's a lot I do every now and then I'll do an interview out of off the West Coast, and a lot of people out there haven't heard me because their prime time 9 o'clock at night, and there is midnight here on the East Coast. You know what I mean? And I'm in bed. You know what I mean? I'm not. Every now and then I'll stay up and I'll do one late, or I'll do a pre-record, and then they can play it later. But like I was just talking, I don't know if you know who Dave Scott is from Spaced Out Radio. He comes out of Canada, but he's on the West Coast.
Yes.
And he does like a 3-hour show. But he, my time, it's from midnight to 3 in the morning. You know what I mean? And he's like, Al, I got to get you back on. I was like, okay, let's make it a Saturday. You know what I mean? So I can sleep Sunday because I'm not getting to bed. And then after I do the show, I'm so wound up. It takes me another hour to come down. So I'm not getting to bed till 4 in the morning.
Yeah. No, I've done that before.
Yeah.
Because there's a guy, Michael Cott, he interviewed me. He's in Texas. So he was doing 7 p.m., which is 3 a.m. for me over here.
Oh, God.
And luckily, I was off work that week.
Oh, thank God.
So he wasn't too, but I'm still like, I just want to go to sleep. No offense to anyone, but
it's tough, man. It's tough with all these different time zones. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. And then there's a guy we've had on him a few times. You might have heard of him, George Mitrovic.
No, I never heard of him.
He's wrote about 1 million books. Once you meet him or hear him and see him, you will never forget him. He's such a character. So he's in New South Wales in Australia.
Okay. So
he's coming on in a couple of weeks with Albert Rosales.
Don't know him.
Oh, I'm trying to think where Albert is. No, I can't think. But so it's going to be 11 hours difference.
Yeah, 11, 12 hours for sure. Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
And 6 hours, I think, behind for Albert. So I've got to work all the times out and let everyone know what time they need to be on. First time George come on, I had to phone him. We got the time difference wrong.
Okay.
He was used to the Canadian time zone. I don't know which one. So he was thinking it was. He's thinking it was so many hours. It was like 4 hours difference. So I'm phoning him, and it was like 4:30 in the morning, and his wife answered the phone.
Oh God! She must not have been happy about that.
It went well. I thought I was going to get a load of abuse, but they're really nice people. So
good. Yeah. No, it's tough. It's tough with all these different times, especially when you're doing interviews all over the world. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
People from all over the world want to talk to you. And I'm the type of guy. I'll do an interview for anybody. I don't care if you have 20,000 listeners or 2 listeners. If you're kind enough to ask me to come on, then I'm honored enough to be on. But it's tough with these different time zones,
I know. It completely throws me out. I think you get jet lag just thinking about it. But yeah, no, but it's all good now. So nickname is one of the moderators. She does a lot of the admin stuff, like so the calendar's shared. So she'll put the people on. She'll contact guests like yourself and
Okay.
add them onto it. I've just got to keep remembering to go on the calendar and look to see who's on. Because it's ridiculously busy now, like yourself. So
yeah, no, I mean, like I said,
it's good. I'm not
year,
complaining.
Like I said, a couple of years ago, I did a lot. I did a lot of
Yeah.
interviews, and I said, you know what, I felt like I was doing one every week. You know, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm doing 12 a year, you know, and it just blew up. I mean, COVID blew everything up, made everybody a podcaster. You know what I mean? And so there's so many more podcasters than there ever was. When I started 15 years ago, the people that were in podcasters were all ex-radio guys, you know, and they all belonged to networks. There was like 5 or 6 major networks that were out there that they belonged to. So you knew who you were dealing with, if it was coming from the West Coast, East Coast, you know, North or whatever. And now there's just like explosion of podcasters, and you know, constantly getting the requests to come on all the time. And like I said, I'm not one of those guys who cares how many people. I don't look at numbers. I'm not a numbers guy. I don't care about numbers. If you're kind enough to ask me on, then I'm honored to come on. I don't care if you don't have any listeners. I'm still gonna come on, you know, and I'm still gonna try to bring my A game, you know.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, right. Do you want to do one more question before we go for a break?
Sure, absolutely.
Right. So this one is, I'm not doing them in any particular order.
I love questions. The more questions, the better. Absolutely.
Excellent. Right. So this is from Warren Hardcastle. He wants to know, who does Alfred most respect in cryptid research?
Oh, I guess I would have to put Ron Moorhead and Tom Cantrell up on the top of that list, along with what's their name? Robin McCrae. He's on that list. Of course, my good friend, my buddy, Chris Reinhardt would be on that list as well. As far as Bigfoot people, Dogman people, of course, Jody Cook would be on that list. And just Shane, man, I can't remember Shane's last name. He comes from the West Coast. Shane is on that list. He's a newbie, but he's learning fast. And I've told him a couple of different secrets about stuff that his experts that he had on didn't know about. So I kind of gave him some inside information on stuff. So you know, there are definitely a few people. I'm sure I'm leaving a ton of people off that are good friends of mine. But just off the top of my head, you know.
Yeah, you can't remember everyone, can you?
No, I can't remember everybody, because there's, you know, there are people all over the world who are really good. Like Paul St. Clair is an amazing researcher, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, and there are people down in Australia whose names are not coming to me at the moment. Sometimes you know, you have a brain fart, you can't remember everybody's name, you know. So, but those are just some people off the top of my head.
Nope. Cheers. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that question.
Yep. Cheers, Warren. Right. We're going to go for a break now then.
Okay.
And then we'll carry on. We have got a couple more questions in there, but I've got some of my own anyway, if not.
Yeah, well, ask away. Ask away. I love questions. I absolutely love taking questions from the audience and from the host. Absolutely.
Excellent. Right then, I'll see you in 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
When I can find the video. Here we go. See you then.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, and we are back. So we've got plenty of questions for you, El.
Awesome. More the merrier. I want to just name 2 more people that I didn't name before. But
yeah, go ahead.
Shell Coyote. I'm probably destroying her last name because Shell is from, she's got a Canadian name, it's a French name, and I can't pronounce it. But Shell is one of my go-to people. And of course, my partner in crime, Brian and Bowden, and who I gave him the nickname, the Paranormal Professor. So Brian will talk to you about anything and everything. He's so well knowledge on all aspects of the paranormal. Go ahead with the questions.
Cool, thank you. Right. A couple more questions just coming through. Right, I'm not going to do them in any particular order. I'm just going to pick them at random. So, right, have you ever been to the UK?
No, never been to the UK.
Right. So this is from Nickname. She's asking, does Al know much about Cannock Chase?
I've heard of Cannock Chase. I'm not very familiar with it now.
Right. So I have been there about 3 or 4 times. There are multiple different types of sightings, from orbs, UFOs, black-eyed kids, dogmen, Bigfoot type creatures. So there's an old military base there that it was a German base. It was used for like POWs, prisoners of war. I think it was the Second World War, and there's been a lot of dogmen sightings around that cemetery. I just wondered if you knew anything about that.
No, but I know that they're always found around cemeteries. Dogmen will always be found around cemeteries, as well as wherever you find the Sasquatch, you will find the Dogman. Absolutely.
Right. So I know a few people that have been up there and had different types of encounters. There's one guy who said there's this black liquid type orb just floating about. I can't remember what size. I think it says it's the size of a tennis ball. It might have been bigger.
Okay.
But it's just it's a strange place. It's like what you'd call one of your national parks, but obviously not as big.
Okay.
So
it's a place of high strangeness.
Yeah.
So do you know if there are any ley lines running through there?
Me personally, I don't know. I'm not that well up on the ley line side of it.
Okay. How about any aquifers?
I don't know what that
running
is.
Underneath. That's underground water streams.
As far as I know, there are. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there are aquifers there. Any quartz veins in the area that you know of?
I don't know, but I'm hoping one of the moderators, either Joe or Nickname, will look it up and find out and let us know before the end of the show.
Because when you start putting all this stuff together, and all of these things add up to places of high strangeness, and you will find multiple creatures in those areas. You know, we have one. I have one that I'm working on here. It's got everything under the sun in it, and my psychic, who's a 5th generation and a Native American, says she's never felt energy like it anywhere else on the planet. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, Joe's going to look it up and hopefully she'll get back to us with some positive feedback. Yeah, like I said, I've been there about 4 times. Each time I've been to a different area.
Okay.
Never caught anything. The first couple of times I didn't do any filming. The last time I went, which was only a couple of months ago, there's a place called the Stepping Stones, Brockton. You got all different areas around it.
Okay.
So we went walking through there, took some photos, did a bit of filming and that. Didn't pick anything up, but I made a video and put it on YouTube just in case there was something in there that I didn't see.
Next time you go, bring yourself an EMF meter.
Yes.
Bring yourself an RF meter. Bring yourself 2 separate voice recorders from 2 separate manufacturers, because each manufacturer sets the microphones up at different frequencies.
Ah, right.
And what you don't catch on one, you may catch on the other. So you're probably experiencing a lot of stuff, but in a different spectrum of light or sound. Yeah.
I've actually got 2 voice recorders. I've got a digital and an analog. On the old little mini cassette.
I got an. I've just gone back. I swear to God, I was with John Zaffis on an investigation a couple of weeks ago, and I went all old school. And you know, everybody's using all the ITC stuff, and I was like, and he looked at me like, "What are you are you a dinosaur? You know why?" And I was like, I had a quartz crystal pendulum. Yeah. I had dowsing rods. Yeah. I had a compass, a military grade compass. I had a 35 millimeter camera, and I had a Polaroid camera, and I had the analog voice recorder. And John just looked at me like, we're going all old school tonight. And I was like, yes, I'm tired of all the digital artifact sounds. The digital voice recorders create a lot of digital artifact sounds. And I'm tired of all the pareidolia from the digital cameras. I'm tired of fighting with people over pareidolia. So I'm going if it's in the 35 millimeter photo, that it's on the negative. And the same thing with the Polaroid camera and the digital analog, because it's a metallic tape, you know what I mean? Magnetic tape. You don't get any of that artifactual sounds from the digital voice recorders.
Yeah, well, that's why I've got it up on my shelf there, the analog one. That's why I bought it. I got it on eBay because it's the metal tape, it picks up different frequencies than what a digital one will.
I got 2 digital voice recorders. One runs continuously for 72 hours. One is voice activated, so it'll only go on when it hears something. And I use them all the time. But, when you listen back to them, there's always an artifactual sound that they create. Even the voice activated one will create the same artifact. But don't get me wrong. Listen, I love them. I've recorded stuff that will blow your mind on different recorders because, like I said, one manufacturer will set up its microphone to this frequency and one will set it up to that frequency. And I'm a big proponent for it. Always having 2 for 2 different manufacturers and always have them both going. Absolutely.
Yeah. I also I kind of did it the cheap way, but it works. I bought a Sony Handycam.
Okay.
With night vision on it.
Okay.
And then bought 2 the square LED IR lights.
Okay.
And it cost me more for one LED light off Amazon than what it did for the camcorder.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. You know what? I understand LED lights are great. You know what I mean? Because you can recharge them if you have what I always take out with me is a solar charger. Yeah. I take the solar charger out with me and I'll recharge them that way. But what I use when I'm using my full spectrum camera, instead of using the ultraviolet lights that they have that are rechargeable, I just use ultraviolet flashlights. And if they die, I just drop the batteries out, I put new batteries in, and I'm good to go. I got 2 really big UV lights taped to my thing, my camera's on, my tripod that my camera's on, so that I can get the UV light. This way I don't have to worry about recharging and you can just drop batteries and go. I wish they would make IR lights that way as well. I mean, the ones they do, I have a couple of IR flashlights like that, but they just don't work like the UV lights do. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I was tempted to get the IR flashlight, and then I was reading in the reviews of it, and they were saying, yeah, they work, but they're not as good as what you'd expect it to be like.
No, they're not as good as the UV lights, and they're not as good as the rechargeable IR, lights that they have.
Well, they're the ones I always get rechargeable, because during the summer when I'm going out investigating, the amount of batteries that I'd go through for everything would be ridiculous.
Right. So, and if you, the good thing about those, and it's happened to me quite a few times on investigations, entities will drain your batteries, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, you could always, if you have that, the solar charger, like I have 2 of them, you could just plug them into the solar charger, recharge them right up again, and go again. So,
well, I've got, this is a bit of it's just a normal charger, battery bank.
Okay.
So I've got 3 of these. So one it's like a wireless charger for your phone as well.
Okay.
The other one's got a torch on it. Not that I ever use it,
but you have to charge them before you go out, right?
Yeah. So so if I know I'm going out, say on a Wednesday, I'll charge everything up by by Monday evening. So then it all gets packed away on the Tuesday, ready for Wednesday.
Yeah, like I said, I absolutely love my solar chargers, because when I'm out in the woods squatching, you know what I mean? The sun is just they're charged anyway before I go out, fully charged. But I know if they're just on my backpack, and if my backpack is in the sun, they're constantly charging, so I don't have to worry about them being drained. Go ahead, go with more questions. Go ahead.
Yep, right. So, so the question to Cannock Chase about quartz and ley lines are: there's 2 types of quartz, white and liver coloured, and the British latitude. I can't say
ley
that.
Lines, okay.
Yeah, the British ley lines and South ley line.
Okay,
so there's 2 ley lines in the area.
That's what I'm saying. You have all of these things adding up. You have 2 different types of quartz. You have the ley lines. You have the aquifers. All of this stuff is adding up to all of this high strangeness. Everything is amplifying everything else. You know what I mean? So the frequencies that are ringing out in that area are off the charts, and that's why you have so many different kinds of entities coming through.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. No, cheers for that. Right. Right. Then back to the question. So this is from the Sober Carper, and I'm guessing it's a he. This person wants to know, out of all the fringe subjects, i.e. paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, which does Alfred think will be disclosed first, whether by the government or by an incident?
First of all, I don't think any will be disclosed, to be honest with you. But if I had to pick one, I would say UFOs, because they've been doing soft disclosure for years, especially, South America has been pretty more open to the North America, but now even the North American government is starting to do more and more soft disclosure on what they call UAPs. I call them UFOs. I don't call them UAPs. I call them UFOs because that's what they are. But now I would have to say that they would go above and beyond to try to keep the cryptids and anything from different dimensions being actually validated, or coming out and saying that they exist.
Yeah. Did you? I'm sorry, I meant to ask you earlier. Did you hear about an apparent Bigfoot escaped from a secure government building over in the States? Well, over where you are, at some point this week?
No, I didn't hear anything about that. I would have to. I'd have to really. I'd have to see everything about it, because there's so many hoaxers in this field. That I take everything I hear like that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, well, I heard it on 2 different streams, but then I looked online but couldn't find anything. So I just it's just one of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So
yeah.
didn't think anything else of it.
I'd question that breaking news. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Cheers. I just thought I'd ask you while it was.
Yeah, no, I know.
How
I
I
haven't heard.
remembered.
I mean, I'm surprised because I'm so connected to so many different Bigfoot groups that you would have thought that at some point it would have came across my feed, but I haven't seen anything. Yeah.
No. Cheers. Right. Next question is from Nickname. She wants to know what cryptid case anywhere in the world you find profound, and where would you like to go without limits?
I don't know. I mean, I would love. As far as cryptid case in the world, I think I'd like to go. My partner, my friend Chris Reinhardt, is going up to Canada this summer with Alex Hychek from Monster Quest.
Oh yeah,
they're going back to the location where he filmed the Monster Quest stuff, where he had all that action happen to him. And he invited me, but I just can't get away. But I think that would be, as far as Bigfoots go, that would be on my bucket list for Bigfoots. As far as just paranormal, to say I would love to be able to investigate the pyramids and the catacombs and underneath the Rome. You know, both of them would be like high on that bucket list.
Yeah. No, cheers for that. All right. Next question is from Joe. She wants to know, what is Al's favorite cryptid and why?
Favorite cryptid, I would have to say Bigfoot is my favorite cryptid because I have a good rapport with a couple of different clans in the area, and they tolerate me when I'm there doing my research, and I've never had anything bad happen to me, or never had anybody hurt or anything on any of my investigations, you know. But I also, before I take anybody who's not part of the team with me on any, I have my psychic read them at first, and my psychic will let me know what their intent is and how their energy is. And we've had to leave members of the team behind on certain investigations because they had a subconscious fear. And with the things we were investigating, there was dark things there that would have been attracted to their subconscious fear. Right. And I didn't want to have the responsibility of having something dark attached to any of my members. So I leave people, like I tell everybody, sign up if you want to come. You know, like I don't bring just anybody, I bring friends. But after you sign up, my psychic has to, like, not interview, but have a conversation with you. And
I check him out.
Yeah, because there are a couple of people that, you know, we were getting ready to go out with, and the psychic would say, no, this guy's got bad intentions, or this guy's got bad energy attached to him. So they will not want him there. It could get dangerous with him there. This guy with the bad intentions could be dangerous for him because he's up to no good. You know what I mean? So I have everybody gets read before we do any of our investigations.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good process.
Well, you know, I don't want to ruin the rapport I have with these creatures or these people. It's people, because that's what they are with these people, because, you know, they tolerate with me. I've been going there for years and years and years. And I mean, I almost had an infant run and jump into my arms one day, but that's a whole different story. But I mean, you know, so I wouldn't jeopardize. First of all, you know, if you don't really do your due diligence to get everybody read before they go, you can not only could you be putting that person in jeopardy, in harm's way, but you could be putting the whole team in harm's way. Yeah. Because, you know, Sasquatch people are individuals, and because this one likes you doesn't mean that one's going to like you, you know?
Yeah.
And they have bad days as well, so you have to be careful what you're doing, you know?
Oh, yeah, it's just like us, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. No, cheers for that. Sorry, a couple more questions coming
Sure,
through. I'm
absolutely.
just marking them. Next one is from Adam Sander. He would like to know, Alfred, have you had any experiences of cryptids which didn't form the normal pattern?
I did have a sighting one time of what they call a rake nowadays. They call it a
Yes.
rake. I mean, back in the day when I started out many moons ago, it was called a ghoul, but now they call them rakes.
Yes.
And I did have a sighting of a rake for the first time, which blew my mind because I never thought in a million years I would ever see anything. But I also had a Bigfoot sighting of a white Bigfoot, which again was something that the thought never crossed my mind that I would ever see, you know.
Yeah.
So the white Bigfoot was off, you know, something unexpected, and the rake for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cheers. Right, I've got a question. What's your take on the Feyfolk elementals?
No, the elementals are alive and well, believe me. Yeah, no. We did an investigation one night where our psychic said, we're going to see gnomes and we're going to see fairies, and we thought she was, you know, high on drugs, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally laughed at her. But at the end of the night, which she claims the fairies were going to show themselves as balls of light, she said. Okay.
Right.
And we did see two balls of light. And we actually, because she had mentioned we would see them, I had my partner, Brian, bring his red laser, and I brought my green laser.
Yeah.
And I said, if we do see these fairies, we're going to hit them with the lasers and see what happens, because the Native Americans up here in upstate New York say don't follow the balls of light, because if you do, they'll lead you to your demise. They'll lead you off a cliff or something. So we were on an investigation one night, and we had just left the east side of the lake, and we were at the, I would say, the northern point of the lake, when where we had just left, two balls of light showed up. And I said, okay. Our cameraman had a 1500 luma flashlight that lit up the woods like daytime.
Yeah.
And I said, on three, Brian, you hit the one on the right, I'll hit the one on the left. And I said, Bill, you light up the whole area. Let's see if they turn into something, you know?
Yeah.
And when we hit them with the laser beams, the pointers, they blinked out and they never came back.
Oh.
So I don't know what we did to them, but they never came back the rest of that night. But then right after that, we had filmed two gnomes running from tree to tree. Brian was facing north, I was facing south, and Bill was filming meteor shower, the cameraman. And Brian said, point the camera behind Al. I see movement back there. So we had attached a separate monitor to the camera that Bill was using. And Bill was looking through the monitor on the camera, and Brian and I were looking at the bigger monitor that we had attached.
Yeah.
And hand to God, I swear to God, I mean, a gnome came out from behind a tree and it ran to another tree. And then 5 minutes later, another one came out and ran. And we actually went over to investigate. There was nothing there, but everything that our psychic said we were going to see that we laughed at, we ended up seeing, you know? So,
yeah.
But I mean, that night, everything that could happen that night happened. It was one of those investigations where we had a Dogman bluff charge us and a Bigfoot throw a rock the size of a bowling ball at us.
Wow.
And it was Halloween, and it was a meteor shower, and we actually heard a family walking down the Appalachian Trail towards us, and they never came out onto the meadow where we were sitting. So we went in to look for them, and they weren't there. And just before that, we had a UFO hit us with a beam of light, and we went into it, and we called the psychic up, and the psychic was mad because it was late in the evening. It was like 11:30, and we thought it was only like 9:30, and so we had lost 2 hours somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you've got missing time there straight away.
And well, we asked her about the family coming through. She said no, that family will be there tomorrow during the day. You guys are in a time-space continuum.
Oh,
so. I mean, man, like if I tell you another time I'll come on and I'll tell you all about that investigation. That was just
please.
That everything under the sun and then some. Yeah, that was amazing.
Wow. So when you seen these gnomes,
yep.
What was you? How was you thinking? Not what was you thinking?
We were very excited because we knew the camera had an SD card in it.
Yeah.
And the extra monitor had an SD card in it. And we thought for sure that we had captured them and they were on the SD cards. But of course, when we reviewed the SD cards like a week later, there was nothing on the SD cards. There were no images on either one of the gnomes. And, like we all looked at each other. It's like, what did you see? I mean, all three of us can't be having the same hallucination. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was crazy, absolutely crazy. I mean, my psychic tells us stuff all the time. And, I don't know if it's because we're New York guys. We don't believe her, you know what I mean? Like, and we always joke with her. And we put her on the spot, and she says, okay, don't believe me. Call me when the investigation is over. Let me know what happens. And when we go out, other than that particular night where we brought the laser pointers, we don't actually look for what she claims we're going to find. We're just out there investigating, researching the moment. We have other stuff on our minds that other experiments we want to do, So if everything she says happens, that's just a bonus. But we don't go out looking for that stuff or looking to create that particular incident, Yeah.
No, cheers. Just quick question about the laser pointers, because I've got a green pointer.
Okay.
Do you use it often?
Yes, I use it when we do our what do you call it? We call them EAIs, intelligent IAEs, intelligent active encounter. When we're trying to do like what they call CE5s in the UFO community.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a different name for it because we don't want to be sued by using whoever called it CE5s. I think it was Dr. Greer or somebody. So we came up with AIE, Intelligent Active Encounter. That's what we call it.
Yeah.
And when we do bring a craft in, and we have usually we have a lot of people with us because we want to have as many people like-minded, putting that thought out there, that intention out there, that energy out there. And it does come in. I'll use the laser pointer to circle in the sky where it is.
Right.
I don't use it as far as like when I go squatching, you know what I mean? I know the Bigfoot and the Dogman do not like the green laser pointers. That just makes them lose their minds. Red, they don't have an issue with, but the green and the blue ones rub them the wrong way. So I wouldn't use it to go out bigfooting. Like if there was a Bigfoot on a ridge watching us, like what we call a scout, he's up there. I wouldn't draw a circle around him with a green laser pointer because he might get pissed off and draw a boulder down on us.
It's not worth the risk.
No, I may hit him with a 1500 lumen flashlight, but I'm not going to hit him with a laser. But the green ones don't seem to bother them though. So
I've got.
the red ones. The red ones don't bother them. Yeah.
I've got. It's not blue. It's more like a purple. It's like UV.
Okay. Yeah, they got purple ones now. Yeah.
So I've got the purple and the green one. I did have a red, but I find they're not as powerful as the others.
No, for some reason they don't make the red ones as powerful, and that may be the reason why the Bigfoots don't mind them. You know what I mean?
Ah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd make sense, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Right. No, thank you. Right, still got a few more questions.
Absolutely, go for it.
This is from Joe. You kind of answered it, but I'll go for it again. She wants to know, where in the UK would you like to go? I'm guessing going investigating.
Yeah, Stonehenge would be my first stop. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love
Don't blame
to
you.
be able to sit in the middle of there and do the techniques that we do that raise the frequency and the vibration. I would love to feel the resonance off of those stones and just feel the energy. You know, there's a good friend of mine. His name is David Roundtree. He's an electronic engineer. And we were at a symposium together one time, and I asked him, I said, how do you know when you've opened up a portal? And he says, because the radiation level goes through the roof. And I said, interesting. So we actually used something that amps frequency and vibration, and we actually opened up a portal, and we did a radiation reading before and afterwards, and it was probably not safe for us to be in there at that point because the radiation level had spiked through the roof. But our bodies were telling us they were tingling, our mouths were tingling, our tongues were tingling, our bodies were tingling. It told us that the radiation had amped up because of what we were using to, that was the whole goal, was to raise the frequency, change the frequency, that we could raise it to a point where we could open up a portal, and we did. So, I mean,
well, why not?
I mean, it's dangerous. I mean, I did get cancer years later. I don't know if it had anything to do with that, but I mean, it may have.
Well, you never know, do you?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. You don't know. Well, first of all, you don't know what you're opening up and what's going to come through. And number two, you don't know. I mean, we know we had the meters that read the radiation. We knew the radiation was at dangerous levels and it was high, but we don't know what else was coming through, So
So could you see the portal?
Yes, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
Where they brought the rabbi in to do his chanting, and they were filming in full thermal imaging, and all the oranges and reds changed to deep purples and blues.
Yeah.
Well, we did that about 10 years before them, and we were in what they call here in the United States ancient stone chambers. Okay. And I know you guys have them. You have these chambers all over, England and Ireland have tons of these chambers. We have them here in the Northeast as well. And we used one in one of those chambers, and we were filming in we actually were filming in a couple of different spectrums, IR and thermal. And in our thermal imaging, and I believe it's on YouTube, you could see the oranges and the yellows and just change to purples and blues. The whole energy of the chamber changed, and like when we seen it on Skinwalker Ranch, me and my partner Brian both fell off of our chairs like, dude, we did that like 10 years ago. Like, yeah, absolutely. So you can see the portal opening up. That's how you you see the portal through thermal imaging. Yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering because people have said different things. It's like when Jessica Jones has been on and Barry Littleton, they said it's like the shimmering effect, like when you get heat rising off the ground.
Yeah.
It's all different.
Yeah,
different things.
That we've never experienced that when we try to open up the portal. You know what I mean? It's the immediate, your body starts tingling from your toes to your head. I believe it's from the radiation. the Geiger counter goes off through the roof, so and like I said, when you're filming in thermal and you use that rainbow spectrum on the thermal imager, everything will turn to dark blues and purples. Yeah, that's how we did it. I've never seen the shimmering effect or anything like that. I know Jessica talks about that and Barry Littleton, but that I've never experienced that personally.
No, thank you. Yeah, because I know people experience different types of things, so I just wondered what the difference was. That was all.
Okay.
No, so thank you for that.
You're
right.
welcome.
There's a question here from Chris Evers at Limit 17. So he's asking, Al investigates a number of subjects, but taking ufology and cryptos only, not including Roswell. Sorry. What are his favourite cases from each one? One each subject, and why?
The Patterson Gimlin film, for one, because there's a lot more that goes with that film that a lot of people don't know about, and I'm not about to discuss it here. But it's that was not a happy camper site, that one. And as far as the UFO stuff goes, I would have to say Phil Schneider's deep underground bases, or the alien bases, and what's it called? The name of it? I think it's in New Mexico or Arizona. I forgot the name of the area. God, I can't think of the name of the area. But I believe Phil was one of those guys. The very first time I seen him and heard him, there was no doubt in my mind he was telling the truth. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that everything that guy said was truthful. Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, he's seen some horrible things in those deep underground bases.
Oh,
you know? So I mean, yeah.
Well, that's right. Well, look what happened to him. You couldn't make that up.
No, well, no one hangs himself with something
with you.
Some kind of cord. It was a stupid kind of cord too.
It was to his colostomy bag, was it?
Yes, that's what it was. Yes,
yeah. I mean, and he's supposed to have hung himself with it. In a wheelchair with half of his abdomen missing and one hand and everything else that was going on.
I mean, it
wasn't
ridiculous.
happening.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Those are two of my favorite cases. And if Chris knows the backstory on the Patterson video, then he'll understand why that is so. That case is so revealing, because there's so much to it, so much more than what anybody really knows. You know, far between people know.
Yeah, can I just ask you one question about that?
Go ahead.
I heard it a bit ago, and I've asked a few people, and no one seems to know. Apparently, there's a juvenile in that video as well.
Yeah, I seen that. I seen the image of the juvenile pop his head up from behind the stump. Yeah.
Just because everyone else I spoke to about it, no one seems to know what I'm talking about. I'm thinking, did I dream it or
no? I seen it. It's there. It's definitely there, and so much more.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you wasn't hallucinating. It was there.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Right. Next question is from Baby with a Laser. He would like to know, what was the most out there thing you've heard or experienced?
Oh my God, I've experienced so much crazy stuff. I wouldn't know what to narrow. I mean, the Halloween investigation, where I was saying we had everything under the sun happen to us, that was pretty mind blowing. But we've done so many investigations at so many different locations and had so much stuff happen to us. Just If I have to say one, I'd say the Halloween investigation. But I mean,
Yeah.
Like I said before, the white Sasquatch, the UFO abduction stuff that I had happening with me. Oh my God, the shaman who took the dark energy off me, who wasn't a shaman, who wasn't there, like a Native American powwow. It's just so much crazy stuff. Just crazy stuff.
Wow. You'll have to come back on and tell us about all that.
Oh yeah, that goes along with my abduction experiences. Yeah, it's just crazy stuff. And the rake. I mean, how many times do you in your life do you think you're going to see something like that? I mean, I try to debunk it 10 ways, 10 different ways. And I actually went back to the location later on to try to debunk it. And I mean, there was nothing there. And it was just like, I know what I saw, and it's always, on the parkway in the wee hours of the morning. I mean, I seen a V-shaped UFO siphoning water out of a catch basin. And when I went back the next, like 2 days later to check it out, not that I knew it was siphoning up water, but when I went to check it out, the stream that was in front of the strip mall that it was over, it was running so hard you could have white water raft down the stream. But the catch basin which caught all the water for the parking lot, which was huge, not only was it bone dry, but the dirt was cracked. It was so dry, and the grass around it had been burnt. And I took all these photographs. I sent it to my brother at the time, who was a MUFON member. It was like one of those MUFON investigators, field investigators. And he was living in Michigan, and I sent it out to him, and he was like, it doesn't make any sense how the stream could be running so hard. And it's just a little stream, but I mean, because it had rained so profusely the 2 days before, that this stream was running so hard. And the catch basin, not only was it empty, but the dirt was cracked and the grass around it burnt. It made no sense. I mean, and that's another story we could get into at another time, but just crazy. I mean, like, I seen a UFO one time over the parkway. It was the size of the Roman Colosseum.
Wow.
I mean, it was mind-boggling. I mean, and I wasn't the only one who seen it. There was 100 cars stuck on the parkway that seen it. There was a state trooper that was it. They scrambled 2 jet fighters from the local Air National Guard. I mean, it was just mind-boggling, So I've seen some crazy stuff, man.
Yeah. Do you ever think, though, when you see some of this stuff, you just think, am I actually seeing this, or is it just something going on in my head?
No. You know what I think? First of all, if it's anything UFO related and I see any kind of craft in the sky, first of all, I don't look at every light in the sky. I don't think every light in the sky is a UFO. First of all, I got to get a feeling. I get a vibe. If I get a vibe that says pay attention to this, it's important, then I pay attention to it. That's number one. Number two, I always do a time check. No matter where I am, I would do a time check, because I know how long it takes me to get to point B, from point A to point B, and I want to make sure I get there in that right amount of time. But there are a lot of times, like that one craft I was talking about that was siphoning the water. This was a giant V. It was humongous. And it was in the middle of a rainstorm, and I was in the middle of the parkway in, rush hour traffic. Yeah. And I felt like I was the only person on the parkway that was seeing it. I was like, why? As I'm watching other cars go by me, and everybody's just looking straight ahead. And I'm crawling on the parkway, and people are going crazy because I'm going so slow. And I'm the only one looking to my left at this craft. And I'm saying, why isn't anyone else seeing this? Is it just meant for me? What's going on? I mean, sometimes I really believe that they can show themselves to just who they want to show themselves to.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had a similar thing happen. I'll just tell you quickly.
Sure.
It was like a plasma UFO.
Okay.
Dropping plasma balls.
Okay.
And I'm driving up the motorway. I was coming off at the next exit, and it's either bad traffic or roadworks. I'm sure it was roadworks. Only doing like between 20 and 35 mile an hour.
Okay.
And I'm literally hanging out the van window, looking up at this, like over to like my 2 o'clock. And I'm looking at all the other cars and all the people in them, and no one's watching it. And same thing, is there only me that can see this? And I must have watched about 5 or 6 like teardrops just dropped from this plasma thing, whatever it was. And it wasn't all sporadic and all, it was like one.
Now,
It was
can
a
I ask you?
rhythm
Can I
and a
ask you a
pattern.
question? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, yeah.
When these plasma teardrops dropped out of the craft,
Yeah.
at any point did they blink out?
No.
No, they
So
stayed on.
They dropped quick and then they slowed down, but then they went like behind a hill or some trees.
Okay.
So then I didn't see them.
Okay.
Whether I don't know whether they touched the ground or not.
Okay.
But they didn't blink it, and I'm watching it all the time until they was out of sight.
Because I had 2 experiences 10 years apart, 60 miles apart, where we seen triangle-shaped craft drop out what I call red balls. Right. And then they would get to a certain height and they would blink out one and then the other. And then 10 years later, it happened to me again, 60 miles away at a different location. And I went into the woods looking for those red balls, and I couldn't find anything, in the woods. So, but I mean, it's just, mind-boggling stuff. Yeah, absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, I've had UFOs parked over my house when I get home, and not only did I see it, but my children seen it, my wife seen it, you know, so, which pissed me off because when you come to my house, you know what I mean? You're not supposed to be at my house, but I had a Dogman come to my house twice, so you know what I mean? Everything comes to my house.
Trying to see what you're up to.
I had Sasquatch experience the other night outside in the backyard.
Really?
Amazing. I started having this experience, and Chris will validate this for me when you interview him, because he's going to tell you almost the same exact story, but his happened a lot. 2 winters ago, I had an ascension. Okay, it was told the secret of the universe. Okay, and they told me they were going to. I thought it was a dream, but they told me that they would prove it to me, and I would find something in my yard, and I did. Okay, so I know it would actually happen. Okay, then I was told by world-renowned psychics that vibrating at a higher frequency, and I'm at a higher consciousness, and that the Bigfoots have been trying to communicate with me when I go out, but my brain is moving so fast, I'm just hearing them in waves. But now I'm told now that I've got a higher consciousness, that I'll hear them loud and clear. Okay. Well, the other night, the other morning, I woke up and I looked in the backyard, and my wife has a honeybird feeder, right?
Yeah.
And I have it weaving through a fence so that it doesn't come out of the ground, because the cats jump up there to get the birds and they'll pull it out of the ground. So I've seen that the honeybird feeder was down in the garden, and we have 2 bird feeders, and one faces east, one faces west. Well, I had noticed that the one facing east was facing south now, and the one facing west is still facing west, but it's pushed, like bent over towards pointing north.
Right.
So, and there was a giant stone in front of the bird bath, and there's no way. I have a stone wall behind the bird feeders, but there's no way a rock could roll off that wall and then around in front of the bird bath. It had to be put there. So I was I'm looking at this stuff and saying, wow, this is crazy. Chris is having similar activity. And then the next night was a warm night here in New York. I was watching the baseball game, the Yankee game, and I was sitting by the window, and I got a bad vibe. For some reason, the thought came to me like, you sit right by this window in the dark, someone could just reach in and pull you out, something. And now, as soon as that thought come to my head, something slammed the side of the house.
Oh.
Now, I don't know if it was the Sasquatch putting that thought in my head, like joking with me, you know?
Yeah.
But
Like playing about.
something hit the side of the house. The whole house shook. I grabbed my 1500 luma flashlight and my 9mm, and I ran outside to see what the hell was going on. And I got 100 acres of woods behind my house, and I have another 100 acres of wetland across the street. Yeah. And I didn't see anything. I didn't see any eye shine. I didn't see any glimmer man or anything like that, shimmer. I didn't see anything. I didn't see absolutely nothing. That same night, about an hour later, I had a Black Hawk helicopter hovering over my house. Oh. The whole house was shaking because the helicopter was so low. So I was like, normally, we do have a couple of prisons up around where I live, and if there's a escaped convict, the police will put up their helicopters, but their helicopters don't sound like military helicopters,
Yeah, a bit different.
Yeah, a bit different. And I went out on the front deck, and this Black Hawk was hovering just above the tree line, maybe 50 feet above the tree line. My whole house was shaking. I hit it with my 1500 lumen flashlight. Yeah, because you really couldn't see it in the night sky because it was like a dark black ink sky that night.
Yeah.
But you can feel the percussion from the blades, Yeah. So I hit it with the flashlight, and I seen it was a helicopter, and I was like, I could like a little Morse code, like, okay, you can go now. You're screwing up my game. And so then the following night, I'm sleeping. And I have a dream. At least I think it's a dream. I'm in a cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
An old, rickety, broken down cabin in the woods with no curtains on the windows. And I'm sleeping in a bed. And my head is by the window. And I come out of my body. I'm having an outer body experience. Okay. And I'm looking at myself sleeping when a Sasquatch face comes to the window. And the Sasquatch face is mind speaking, which is a term I hate. Mental telepathy with me, who are sleeping in an unconscious state, right?
Yeah.
And it's telling me in my sleep what its name is, but I'm hearing it because I guess I'm still connected to my body. I'm not detached, so I'm hearing what the Sasquatch is saying, and it's telling me that its name was Haya, HYA -NETH, Hyaneth, right?
Right.
And it's red, and it's like, an auburn color.
Yeah.
And then I wake up and I say, man, I had the weirdest dream. So I called a woman I know who's very psychically connected, Robin McCrae, called Robin.
Yeah.
And I told him, good friends with Robin. I called her what happened. And I said, just answer me two questions. I said, was it a dream? And was that a male or a female Sasquatch? And she said, I'll call you back in a half hour. Let me think on this, right? She wanted to meditate on it. She called me back in a half hour. She said, no, it wasn't a dream. And now that you've had your ascension, they can talk to you telepathically. And yes, it was a female, not a male. And that was in the name, and that was its name. And I said, well, what did it want? And she told me, she says, they wouldn't talk to me. They wanted to talk to you. So I was like blown away. It's like, holy crap. Because I've been dying to actually go out and try the mental telepathy part of the investigation at my locations. But I haven't been able to get out there in 2 years, partially because of COVID. And then I had tore up my ankle, and I was waiting to get surgery on my ankle for like 2 years. And I got the surgery, and then I was another year off my ankle for the surgery to heal, because that's what the doctor said. It takes a year to heal. So I haven't been out there. And Robin did say they're very excited that you're coming to see them again, and they can't wait to look forward to see you. But more than this, and this is something that blew my mind, because Robin didn't know I had been communicating with Chris Reinhardt about this, Yeah. Robin said, more than that, they're really excited to see Chris Reinhardt because they've heard a lot about him. And I was like, whoa, because she didn't know I was associated with Chris. You know, like she knows we know each other, but she doesn't know that we talk like every other day. You know, and so I called Chris up immediately and told him, and Chris was like, "Oh, I can't wait to get there now." You know, because how do they know about me? And I said, according to Robin, they're all connected telepathically. It doesn't matter the distance or what; they're all connected. And so they're looking forward to see me again after 2 years, which makes me happy because I'm looking forward to see them, and they're looking forward to meet Chris. So they've heard a lot about him. So
well, without giving too much away, I know we was talking before we come on air because Chris is coming on in a few weeks.
Yes,
he's had very similar goings on to what you've got.
Yes, but he had him way before me. He had him like a month, maybe a month and a half before I ever experienced anything like that. Yeah. I don't think he's experienced the banging on a house, but he has experienced them gifting him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, thank you. Right, we've got 2 more questions, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Yep. So first one is from Joe, and she would like to know, because it's her favorite cryptid, has Al seen any dogmen?
Yes, I've had about 5, 6 separate encounters with the Dogman over the years. 2 at my home. We were bluff charged one time. We found a den that had 2. Not only did it have 2 Dogmen in it, one was your typical canine wolf-like, humongous head, Dogman. The other one was a smaller. It had more of a hyena head. It was looking right at us, and it was snarling. It wasn't happy that we found its den. And I believe that was the one that bluff charged us on the investigation because of the photograph I have of the creature that bluff charged us. It had like a square head and pointy ears, you know, and so I'm thinking it wasn't the one. The one that came to my house was the bigger one with the wolf head or the German Shepherd head. In that particular den, there were 2 baby Sasquatches that was being held, was holding the hands of a reptilian creature.
Oh,
I call the creature from the Black Lagoon, because that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
And why it's in the same den as the Dogman and why it's holding 2 baby Sasquatches by the hands, I don't know. But in all reality, I'm sure it was a reptilian. Yeah. Or a lizard man, something like that.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get my head right. That sounds like one of the messed up dreams that I'd have. But to physically experience that must be top up there with encounters.
Yeah, no, I was being drawn back to the woods for like 6 months, and eventually I made myself. I went back because I felt like I had to. There was something there was a reason why we were bluff charged. We didn't know that we were sitting on top. We were up on a bluff. We didn't know we were sitting above a Dogman den that was in the swamp.
Right.
But I was being drawn back, and it was pulling me back. And long story short, when we finally noticed the den, and we filmed the den, we went back to the camera guy's house, Bill, and we had it on the 60-inch screen TV. We were looking at the video, and like, look at the size of that, giant canine head. Look at the one snarling at us. Those are the 2 things we were focused on. Yeah. And Bill's mom actually walks into the room, his studio, with coffee and cake. She goes, "Would you guys like any coffee and cake?" I said, "Sure, of course." And she looks up at the TV and she says, "What are those 2 little monkeys doing in the picture?" And we're like, "What monkeys?" And then she pointed them out to us. And then in between the 2 monkeys was this creature that looked like a reptilian or a lizard man. Yeah. It was crazy. Just absolutely insane. Yeah. I mean, we got the pictures are up on YouTube. They should be under the Bronxville Paranormal Society if you want to check it out. They should still be up. Yeah, I don't think Brian's taking anything down. Brian's got us in so many social media sites. I can't keep up with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I usually just stick with the Facebook stuff. I can't be bouncing around to 6 million different sites every day. You know?
Yeah. No. Yeah, the easy ones: YouTube, Facebook.
Yes, absolutely.
After that, it gets complicated.
Yes. And I don't trust TikTok. I may be paranoid, but I truly do believe it's a spy network for the Chinese.
Right. Well, I'm on TikTok, but I've probably not used it really for about 8 months. So I'm just going to see how it goes, whether I go back on it or not. But we'll see. But I've got one more question for you, if that's okay.
Absolutely. I love the questions. Thank you for asking so many great questions. I really do appreciate it.
No, cheers. Right, so this is from Miss Gilly B, and she wants to know when observing the clans when Sasquatch communicate with each other, is it mostly animalistic sounds or more of a gibberish type language?
Both. They communicate in all different kinds of ways. From what I'm starting to understand now, they also communicate telepathically, and that was a question that I asked Robin. I was like, well, if they have the ability to communicate telepathically, then why bang on trees and rock knocks and have this gibberish like this samurai chatter and stuff like that? And she says, because it's in their genetic makeup, you know what I mean? So it's just part of how they communicate. So, I mean, like I said, I just experienced the mind speak one time in my life that I know. And so it's all new to me. I truly believe that there are people who are having communications. I hope all of my communications from now on is that way. But I've heard all of the above: the knocks, the tree knocks, the rock knocks, the samurai. I've heard monkey barking. I mean, it just the woods are echoing from monkey barking. You know, we're in North America. We don't have any monkeys here. You know, it's mind-boggling. Oh my God. I'll tell you that story one time. I brought a couple of women out with me, seasoned paranormal investigators on their bucket list. Put it this way, they'll never go in the woods again. And it wasn't even a bad experience. It's just scared they was just so blown away by everything that happened that night that they just like, wow, we're done, you know?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I was just thinking, so with the tree knocking and the using telepathy in that, if they're using telepathy, then they could be talking in a group rather than one-on-one.
Absolutely.
So if they're doing the tree knocks, maybe they're trying to communicate with a certain other Bigfoot or cryptid. Do you think?
I don't know. Maybe they're doing it for our purposes, so we know where they are.
Thing I was going to say. Is it?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, like I said, I've experienced all of the above, every single one I've experienced, and I'm baffled. I mean, that's something that baffles me. Like, if you're that intelligent where you can communicate telepathically, then why do all the other stuff?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
But there must be some sort of reason behind it why they're doing it.
Yeah, she's not a scientist. Robin's not a scientist, but she claims it has to do with their DNA.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, whether it's a primitive man kind of thing, because they are half human. So I mean, so I don't know if it goes back to the caveman days. I honestly don't know,
Well, maybe we might find out one day, but I'm not holding my breath.
No, I wouldn't hold my breath either. But I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing when you have this kind of communication. And it's amazing. Like, I remember the first time Brian and Bill heard the three whoops. And I mean, these whoops, we were 50 feet up on the ridge and 100 feet away, or 100 yards away from where this creature was. And it just went through us like a bass drum at a Metallica concert, man. It just boom. And it was amazing. And they were like, their eyes got really wide and like, what was that? And I knew what it was because of my incident when I was a kid in Florida. So I was like, I was giddy. I was like a kid in a candy shop, you know. Those guys were ready. They were going. Those guys were ready to leave, and I was just getting started, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
No. So amazing. It's just amazing. I could sit here, honestly, I could sit here on all night and just listen to you telling
I know.
these
I
encounters.
know.
And
I talk to people, and especially the people from the UK. I tend to have a good rapport with them, and we'll start a conversation an hour before the show starts, and then we'll talk an hour after the show starts, and the next thing you know, 4 hours have gone by.
I know. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but please do come back on. And
anytime, just shoot me some
abduction
dates
and the UFO and
shoot me some dates, and Chris is gonna blow your mind when you get him on and he starts talking about all the stuff that's happening at his locations. It's just mind-boggling. It really is.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking, would you come on with Chris? Not this time, but the next time you come on.
Of course, absolutely, yeah.
Excellent. So what I'll do once Chris has been on, I'll get back to you both and get you both to come on together.
Absolutely, of course. Yeah, and hopefully it'll be after our investigation, you know, in June. So we can let you know what happened on that particular investigation. Yeah.
Well, no, that'd be perfect because it'd be around about August, September.
No, that'd be fine.
That's the next availability. That's all. Unless anyone drops out.
I plan on getting back into the woods again in October. What happened was the research area that I'm taking Chris to is usually the one I go to in October is when it's mostly active. But I mean, it's active all summer long, but it's really, really active in October. But we were supposed to have, you know who Mark D'Antonio is from MUFON? Mark does all the MUFON photograph evidence stuff. He evaluates all that. He's been on the Travel Channel, 100 different channels, 100 different times. And Mark wanted to come out with us with his military grade drone and try to get images of these creatures before we were supposed to do it in April, before the trees started to bloom with all the leaves and everything, you know? But one of my locations is on federal land, and you can't fly drones on federal property. So even Mark, with all of his military grade clearance, because he works for Navy intelligence, you know, even him with all of his his high intelligence thing grade, they wouldn't allow him to do it. So. Wow. Chris is jonesing to get out because of his eye. I'm jonesing to get out because of my ankle. So I said, let's just do one. Let's do one here in June. Then we'll do one up at your place in July. Then we'll come back down here in October, and then we could go back up at your place in November. You know, and see what happens. So. We plan on doing a bunch of stuff. So, I mean, with Chris, and I just got a ton of stuff on my schedule anyway for this year. So,
no. Well, I said, really do appreciate you coming on.
Got to get my partner, Brian Bowden, on too.
Yes, I'm friendly with Brian.
The paranormal professor.
Yeah.
You can ask him anything.
I shall be contacting him over the weekend.
Well, like I said, he's going to be away. He's going to be away until Sunday. He's going to go. He's at that Bigfoot thing conference in Florida, so he won't be back at his house until Monday. So if you want to reach out to him on Monday, he should be back.
I was going to say I'll leave it till the middle of next week.
Yeah. Because he's like, they call me the Squatch Father, right? They gave me Chris gave me the nickname the Squatch Father. So I gave Brian the nickname the Paranormal Professor because let me tell you, there's not a subject he hasn't read on. And you want to talk theory and conjecture, you want to talk any subject under the sun, he can discuss it in detail.
Wow.
He's amazing. Perfect. He's amazing.
Right.
He's like a brother to me. I love him like a brother. Absolutely.
Cool. So
actually, he's coming out with me and Chris too. He's coming up from Florida to do it, and he's gonna stay at my house. Yeah.
Oh, some more Bigfoot action.
Yes.
Right. I just want to say a massive thank you, Al, for coming on.
No problem. Anytime.
Amazing. Thank you for everyone in the chat for the questions.
Thank you for the chat questions.
I am back on next Wednesday when I'm going to be interviewing and chatting with Gary Heseltine.
Oh, okay.
That'll be a good one. And then the following next Friday, it's Bigfoot Michigan Rob.
Oh, Bigfoot Michigan Rob.
So Rob's coming on. So that'll be another good one.
Rob.
Yeah,
he's a good guy. Absolutely.
I just need to get Donnie and Tex on next.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a full sweep, isn't it? So yeah. So yeah, we're gonna end it now. So like I said, massive thank you all for coming on. So glad you're gonna come back on and obviously have a chat with Chris as well.
Yeah, like I said, anytime you want to talk UFOs or ghosts or anything like that, you don't want to hear any of these crazy experience that I lived through, I'd be more than happy to tell you about it.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. And so does everyone else. So everyone listening on the podcast, thank you for downloading and subscribing to it. I know it's not been going long, but I'm going to be doing more on the podcast audio side. So there's going to be some just going on podcast and not on YouTube and vice versa. Just mix it up a bit. So I just want to say thank you again for everyone coming on. And hopefully see you next Wednesday. Have a great weekend and speak to you all soon. Are you okay to hang on, Al?
Sure, absolutely.
Intro? Yeah. All right then. Right. So see you all then. Take care and good night.